The first warning came from my grandfather 3 days before I left for the camping trip. "Don't go to the Four Corners area," he said, his weathered hands gripping mine with surprising strength. "Not in October. That's when they're most active." My grandfather was Navajo, though he left the reservation 40 years ago. He rarely spoke about the old beliefs, which made his warning all the more unsettling. "When what's most active, Grandpa?" His eyes darkened. "You know what? Don't make me say the name. Names have power, especially theirs." I did know what he meant. Skinwalkers, the naaldlooshii, witches who wore the skins of animals and walked on 4 legs or 2, depending on their mood. I'd grown up hearing whispers about them, though my parents had always dismissed it as superstition. "It's just a hiking trip," I assured him. "My friends and I have been planning it for months." He released my hands and turned away, then followed the rules. Don't whistle at night. Don't respond if you hear your name called from the darkness. And if you see an animal acting strangely, especially a coyote, you run. You don't look back, and you don't stop running until you're far away. I should have listened. We set up camp in a canyon in New Mexico, about 20 miles from the nearest town. There were 4 of us, me, my girlfriend Rachel, and our friends Marcus and Jen. The October air was crisp, and the landscape was beautiful. Red rock formations glow in the sunset, juniper trees twisted by wind and time. "This place is incredible," Rachel said, snapping photos as the sun disappeared behind the mesas. "Why isn't it more popular?" "Too remote," Marcus answered, stoking our campfire. "Most people want amenities. We're hardcore." As darkness fell, the temperature dropped rapidly. We huddled around the fire, roasting hot dogs and trading stories. That's when we heard the first howl. It was distant, echoing off the canyon walls. A coyote, probably, but something about the sound made my skin prickle. "Creepy," Jen said, moving closer to Marcus. The howl came again, closer this time. Then another answered it from a different direction, and another. Within minutes, we were surrounded by the sound of coyotes, except they didn't sound quite right. The vocalizations were too varied, too complex, almost like they were communicating in a language. "There must be a pack nearby," Rachel said, but I heard the uncertainty in her voice. "Don't whistle at night. Don't respond if you hear your name." My grandfather's warnings echoed in my mind. I scanned the darkness beyond our firelight, but saw nothing except the deeper black of the canyon walls and the silver stars overhead. The howling stopped as suddenly as it had begun. The silence that followed was oppressive, broken only by the crackle of our fire. "Well, that was unsettling," Marcus joked, but nobody laughed. We turned in early, the 4 of us squeezed into 2 tents. Rachel fell asleep quickly beside me, but I lay awake, listening. Every small sound, the wind through the junipers, the settling of rocks, the distant cry of a night bird, seemed magnified in the darkness. I must have finally dozed off, because I woke suddenly to the sound of footsteps outside our tent. Heavy footsteps, deliberate, walking in a circle around our campsite. My heart hammered as I listened. The steps were wrong somehow. The rhythm was off, like someone trying to imitate walking but not quite getting it right. 4 beats, then 3, then 4 again. Sometimes the footfalls sounded light, almost like an animal's paws. Other times they sounded distinctly human. I reached for my flashlight, but my hand froze when I heard the voice. "David," my name, called softly from just outside the tent, in Rachel's voice. But Rachel was asleep beside me. I could hear her breathing, feel the warmth of her body. "David, come out here. I need to show you something." The voice was perfect, every inflection, every tone exactly like Rachel's. But she was right there, unconscious. "Don't respond if you hear your name call from the darkness." I clenched my jaw and squeezed my eyes shut, willing myself not to answer. The footsteps continued circling. Then came another voice. David, man, you got to see this. Marcus's voice from outside, but I could hear Marcus snoring in the tent next to ours. Please, David, I'm scared. Jen now, her voice trembling with fear so authentic it made my chest ache. Still, I didn't respond. I couldn't. The circling stopped. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. The sound of our cooler being opened. The rustling of our food bags. Whatever was out, there was going through our supplies. And it was making sounds while it did so. Wet, smacking sounds. Like someone eating, but not quite right. Too eager. Too hungry. When Rachel woke me at dawn, I was still clutching the flashlight, my muscles cramped from tension. I told her everything. But she looked concerned rather than frightened. David, you were probably just dreaming. Stress and unfamiliar surroundings can cause really vivid nightmares. But when we emerged from the tent, our cooler was torn open. All the meat we brought was gone. The steaks, the chicken, the hot dogs. But nothing else had been touched. Not the bread, not the vegetables, not the marshmallows. Bear, Marcus suggested, examining the torn packaging. No claw marks, I said, running my finger along the smooth tears in the plastic. And no tracks. We searched the entire campsite. The ground around our tents was soft sand, perfect for holding prints. But there were no tracks at all. Not animal, not human, nothing. That's impossible, Jen said, her voice small. We should have left then. But it was a 6-hour hike back to where we'd parked, and Rachel and Marcus insisted there was a logical explanation. Probably another camper playing a prank. They said, we just missed their tracks somehow. That second day, we hiked deeper into the canyon. The landscape was breathtaking, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Several times, I caught movement in my peripheral vision, something darting behind a rock or into a crevice. But whenever I turned to look, there was nothing there. Around mid-afternoon, we found it, a coyote, standing on a boulder about 50 yards ahead of us, perfectly still. It was watching us with an intensity that animals don't usually have. Its posture was wrong, too upright, too human-like in the way it held its head. Beautiful, Rachel whispered, raising her camera. But the coyote did something that made my stomach drop. It stood up on its hind legs. It shouldn't have been able to balance like that. The anatomy was all wrong. But it stood there, fully upright, its front paws hanging at its sides like arms, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, studying us. Then it smiled. I don't mean it pulled its lips back in a snarl. I mean it smiled. A wide, human smile full of too many teeth. Run, I said. What? Marcus turned to me. Run. Something in my voice must have convinced them. We bolted back the way we come, our backpacks bouncing, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. Behind us, I could hear it following, sometimes a patter of 4 legs, sometimes a heavier thumps of 2, and it was laughing, a high, chittering laugh that was trying to sound human, but came out all wrong, like a recording played at the wrong speed. We ran until our lungs burned, until our legs felt like rubber. When we finally collapsed near our campsite, gasping for air, the sound of pursuit had stopped. What the hell was that? Marcus wheezed. I didn't answer. I was staring at our tents. They'd been torn open, not slashed or clawed, peeled back, as if someone with hands had carefully opened them. All our sleeping bags had been pulled out and arranged in a circle around the dead fire. And in the center of the circle, someone had arranged rocks to spell out words. I am coming. We're leaving. I said, right now. We hike out in the dark if we have to. This time, nobody argued. We packed in frantic silence, throwing gear haphazardly into our bags. The sun was setting, painting the canyon walls blood red. We had maybe an hour of light left. That's when Jen screamed. I spun around to see her pointing at the canyon rim above us. There were figures up there, at least a dozen of them, silhouetted against the dying light. They stood perfectly still, watching us. Are those people? Rachel asked, but even from that distance, I could tell they weren't. The proportions were wrong. Some stood upright but had heads that were too large, too angular. Others were on all fours but with legs bent at impossible angles. As we watched, one of them began climbing down the canyon wall, not rappelling, not carefully picking its way down, just climbing, straight down the vertical face, like a spider. Go! I shouted. We ran up the trail in the growing darkness, our flashlights cutting wild arcs through the gloom. Behind us, I could hear them coming, a chorus of footfalls, some human, some animal, all wrong. And voices, so many voices. Our parents calling our names, our friend from home, even people we'd lost. Marcus's dead brother, Rachel's grandmother who'd passed 2 years ago. The things were using every voice they could find in our memories, trying to get us to stop, to turn around, to engage with them. I don't remember much of that hike. Terror has a way of blurring time. But somehow, we made it back to Marcus's truck as true night fell. We threw our gear in the bed and Marcus floored it, the truck fishtailing on the dirt road. In the side mirror, I saw them, dozens of figures standing at the edge of the road, watching us go. Some were coyotes, some were wolves, some were birds with human faces, and some wore shapes that made my eyes hurt to look at them. One stood ahead of the others. It had the body of a coyote, but stood upright like a human. As we sped past, it raised one paw in what could have been a wave, or a promise. We reported it to the local sheriff, but he just gave us a knowing look. You folks were in Skinwalker territory, he said simply. You're lucky you made out. That was 3 months ago. We don't talk about it much. How do you explain to people that everything they think they know about reality is wrong? But sometimes, late at night, I hear scratching at my window. When I look, there's never anything there, just darkness. And sometimes in that darkness, I see a shape, standing upright, watching, waiting. My grandfather was right. I should have listened. Because the thing about skinwalkers is this. Once they notice you, they never really let you go.